Hi everyone, my name's Sharon Martin. I'm from Fertility Network UK, and we're here today to talk about donor sperm. And I have got Mila Rietti from Cryos International, who's going to talk you through what that process is, how you would go about it, and the implications involved. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Mila.
Hi, Sharon. Thank you very much for having us. It's a pleasure. We've put together a little presentation about the important things to consider when you're going to choose a donor for your fertility treatment in the UK specifically. So I'm just going to jump right into it. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to cover why use a donor, how to choose the donor, how to order donor sperm for fertility treatment in the UK specifically, who are the cryosperm donors and what it is that motivates them to donate, and how are our donors screened and qualified to become compliant under the UK regulations. And stop me anytime if you have any questions and we can address them. So why use a sperm donor? There's a lot of other alternatives and options out there. And we want to underline that using a donor gives no parental rights to the donor. This means that the donor won't be able to contact any of the children or vice versa, because it's not there's no parental obligations or rights. So it is important to have that distinction done. Our donors are thoroughly screened and tested, and the quality of the samples is known before you choose before you buy anything. So you already know that if you buy a straw that has that is labeled as motility 10, not only has it been screened for all infectious and genetic diseases that we show you, but it has the motility that we say it has. So if it's a motility 10, motility is the number of active sperm cells per milliliter of sperm. So if you buy a motility 10, you know exactly what you're buying. And this is, very important because donors don't have the same motility every time they donate. A donor can be a student that visits us one day during after a vacation, is very relaxed and the motility is fantastic. And maybe they come, and visit us after 2 weeks where they've been under stress because they have exams or they're about to, they have a cold or something and their immune system is down, and the motility can fall pretty much to very low motility. So when you are choosing the donor, you know exactly what you're getting. We've already classified those samples. You can also find a donor that looks like you or like your family or partner, and that suits your lifestyle, your values, your interests. And because we have such a variety of donors, then you can really, choose what you agree with. And who uses donor sperm? So we have heterosexual couples where the male partner has fertility issues. And you can see the breakdown more or less of our patients. Lesbian couples. And we've seen in the last few years a huge increase in the number of single women who want to become a mother by themselves, because either they've, in these modern times, we tend to put our careers first sometimes, or they just simply didn't find a partner they wanted to have children with. And obviously women, we have a time frame where we need to think about this. So that group is becoming a lot larger. How do you choose a donor? So the first advice is take your time. is a very important decision to choose a donor. And we have different profiles in the website. With filters, you can filter by ethnicity, or you can filter by hair color or other things. But in general terms, we have basic profiles that give, very basic information. And then those are a bit cheaper than the extended profile. So there's a price difference, and I'm talking about this because there should be something for everyone. And we want to make sure that that we also have the basic profiles available and that people know about those. The extended profile provides a lot of information about a donor. We do an extensive interview with the donor. We have childhood photos and handwritten messages from the donor, a lot of information about their education, their family, their interests, memories from childhood, just to give you a sense of who the donor is and how, if you really like the person the donor is. And then we have a third option, which is an exclusive donor, which means only your family will be using that donor. So, and let me, sorry. I just skipped one slide. Let me go back here. These are, these profiles are, you can see that the extended profiles have an alias on the website, whereas the basic profiles are a number. So that's an easy way to know which one it is, because it's a question we get a lot of. All right. So how does it work? You sit at home, you look at you browse the website, you have finally come to your top 3 donors. And then you wonder, can I use these for the UK? Yes. When you're sitting in the UK in your computer, we're only showing you the donors that have been qualified to be used in the UK. So it's very important that if you're not getting your treatment in the UK, you change the settings, because you won't be able to see other donors. So you're only seeing the donors that are qualified and screened and everything in accordance to UK regulations. So when you're choosing, you can be sure that those donors are okay to use. Take your time when you're placing an order. Don't do it at the last minute, because when you place an order, we contact the clinic. We work with your clinic very closely. We have a lot of documents from that donor that we send to the clinic, and we wait for the clinic to tell us it's okay to send that sample to them for your treatment. So it's very important that you tell us exactly where your treatment is. We will get in touch with that clinic and get everything ready. Once the clinic approves, then we can get ready to send it, and then you can begin your treatment. Some clinics in the UK will not start medication until they have received the samples. So allow for a few weeks before you need the samples in the clinic. So it gives us time to coordinate it. So what do you order? How much do you order? Some clinics have very defined ideas of what they want. So the first step, speak to your clinic. If they tell you need to order so many straws with this motility, follow your clinic recommendations. If they are not, if they say it's up to you, then our recommendation is one IUI motility 10. It's usually fine for most type of treatments. You might want to confirm it with your clinic. We don't know what treatment you're getting, and we don't know your history or your age, your personal health. So it's important that you discuss it with your doctor. When it comes to how much a lot of times we get how many rounds of IVF, for example, will it take? We don't know, but on average, we can say you can plan for 5 or 6 straws per child. Maybe you don't need them all, maybe you need them all. It's very difficult to say. You can start with less, you can start with 3 and see how it goes. But once we ship the straws to a clinic, we cannot take them back. So we offer the possibility of storing them at Cryos, and we can actually buy them from you if you don't use them at 75% of the price. So if you want to keep them at Cryos and try, 2 at a time, that's fine. But know that if once we ship them, it's biological material, so we cannot take it back to the lab because we have very high quality standards and we cannot, unfortunately, take it back. But we do offer the option of storing them with us. You should also know that if you think you might have, you might want siblings from the same donor, we don't have a separate stock that guarantees that you'll have straws from that donor. So it's very important to plan. So if I'm choosing this donor, and so plan ahead and try to, as soon as you get pregnant, for example, go back and try to reserve more straws of that donor, because we cannot guarantee that when you come back in a few years, we'll have straws from that donor still in our website. So make sure that you plan ahead, and as I said, we can always buy the straws back from you if you end up not wanting them. And then, as I said, the clinic has to approve the straws. So once you place the order, we will work with them. So who are our donors? First, I would like to say that we are very selective when we accept the donors. We only accept 5 to 7 out of 100 applications that we get. We have very strict standards, and it's all men between the ages of 18 and 45 who are physically healthy and mentally strong. And on average, more or less half of them are in a relationship. Almost half of them are obtaining higher education. About half of them are employed in a full-time job or are self-employed. And about half of them also donate blood, which is very important because it shows the altruistic motivation behind the donation. And this took us to conduct a study at Cryos to understand why it is that the donors donate. So we conducted a study with 233 donors, of which 90% stated that their top motivation was to help people who wanted to have children. And this is huge because there's a lot of stigma out there saying, donors do it for the money, and we don't experience that. In fact, 23% of the interviewed donors marked that helping people without children was their sole reason for donating. So they had no other motivation than that. And the other thing we wanted to see was how much of a taboo or how much the donors were open about the fact that they were donating. And the majority of the donors had no reservations talking to their girlfriends or to their families about the fact that they were donating, which shows that the stigma around donation is lower than it was in the past, where it was very secret. So that we think was very interesting. what are the requirements in the UK? So thankfully, in the UK, you have an agency called the HFEA, which I'm sure most of you have heard about. And the HFEA has a code which has all the regulations regarding sperm donation. So we have a very clear guideline of how we need to qualify our donors. Some other countries don't have this, and it's very ambiguous, but thank God in the UK, it's very clear and very regulated. So we can actually follow these rules and qualify the donors exactly how it's required in this country. We have created something that is called a standard, UK standard. And with that, we have all the screening, the quota for the UK, the way we work with the clinics, everything is described in this code. So when we have a donor that has to be qualified for the UK, they will fill out specific UK forms that then we send to the clinics before we send your order to them. If your treatment, and I'm throwing it out there because if your treatment is outside of the UK, then other rules apply, and you probably need to contact us to make sure that you understand what that means, because in the UK, for example, as you know, only ID released donors are allowed, which means that when you have a child with a donor from Cryos or from other banks, the child, upon turning 18, can contact the bank and get the HFEA and get the identifying information about the donor. In other countries, it's the opposite legislation. Only non-ID released donors are allowed, and you need to know this before making that decision. So that you understand also that moving forward, if you want siblings, or that you don't, get surprises on the other end. In the UK, 10 families can use the same donor, and no more than 10 families. And to control for this, we will add a quota reservation, it's called, on your order. And that is your right to be one of those 10 families using that one donor. If you get pregnant, you can convert that quota to a pregnancy, and you can continue to use the donor for siblings. If you don't, then you can go into the website and you don't want to continue treatment with a donor, we will refund you for the price of that quota. So that you can release it, and the place in those 10 families is empty again. Does that make sense? So yeah, that was more or less the big picture. I don't know if you want to go into more detail, Sharon, or you have any questions?
Oh yeah, thanks, Neil. That was really interesting. Yeah, I've got some questions if you don't mind. One of the questions that I've been asked a lot from people seeking donor sperm is, what advice would you give anyone using donor when to tell that child that they were born as a result of donor? Is there a, have you done any studies? Have you spoke to recipients to ask them, is there a right time to tell the child?
Yes. We believe transparency is important. And we have a section on our website with different books that we recommend on how to talk to your child about being donor conceived. We also have on staff a donor conceived woman who has been very vocal, and she's done presentations and she's shared her experience a lot, and it really helped us also at Cryos, take a stand on the issue. But we can't obviously determine how families will handle this situation. We do believe that transparency is very important, and we follow many of the recommendations from the leaders in this area in the UK, for example. So I would invite everyone to go into our website and check. We have also a frequently asked questions, and we talk about some of these topics in the website and provide the book recommendations there as well.
Okay, thank you. If someone was to use donor, can they approach the donor to have some sort of involvement with the child, or is that some people?
No, so the donors, as I said, have no parental rights or obligations, and we actually the donor cannot have contact with the child, and the child cannot have contact or information about the donor until they are 18, if it's an ID release donor. So in that way, there's no contact. When the child is 18, then they can contact us at Cryos and we can provide. They will have all the information that is on the website, obviously the profile and all that, which can also help in the narrative when one talks to the child about being donor conceived, but no contact until the child is an adult.
So,
and again, this is the right of the child to contact the donor. The donor will never be given the information about the child.
Yeah, okay. So when you said the quota is 10 families per donor, when that child is 18, will they be able to access information on other children conceived by that donor?
Not from us, but we know that there's informal groups on Facebook and things like that have been done, but we don't do that. We can only because we have to respect the wishes of everyone. Not everyone will want that, so we won't provide that information. We only can provide the information about the donor to the donor conceived child when they are of age. Okay. So then it's up to the child or the families.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What would you say was the kind of single biggest selling point why someone should use a donor bank as opposed to using unregulated closed Facebook groups? We've seen them that they're out there for someone that's seeking donor sperm.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious is the screening. You know what you're buying, and you know it's healthy, and you don't know what you're getting if you're not using. But also the parental component. Donors are not parents; they will never be, and you also don't know how many children are being born with it's all unregulated. So if you're choosing a donor from a Spermbank, you can be sure that everything is following the rules. There's a reason why it's regulated. There's a reason why the HFEA exists. And there's a reason why clinics only accept donors from sperm banks, except for known donors, which is an agreement that they can draft with the mother, or but that's a different story. About the gray market, it has a lot of dangers, and people should maybe consider the alternative of going through a bank, and it might cost a little bit more, but you get the guarantee that it's safe.
Can I ask you, you mentioned that the sperm is screened for diseases. Could you just tell us what kind of diseases you're screening for?
Yep. So we do the regular infectious disease panel that we, when you go on the website, you can see everything that a donor is tested for. So it's called Summary of Records, and it's open. You can just look what each donor has been tested for. It's all public on the website. But we do the standard infectious diseasing screening for HIV 1 and 2, HCV, syphilis, HPV, gonorrhea, chlamydia, CMV, everything that is required that are the most. And then we do, so most of our donors on the website will have this genetic carrier panel done with 46 of the most common recessive variants for genetic testing. Those you can also see on the SOR on the website. We have recently introduced also genetic matching. So when you look at the donor profile, it will say it has if it has the option of genetic matching, which means we offer two possibilities. One is to match your more than 300 genes, your gene or the patient's genes against the donors, to make sure that there are no recessive genes that match. And or if the patient is a carrier, because they've done genetic testing already and they know they are a carrier of a recessive gene, we can look at specifically 1 or 2 genes that they know they are a carrier of and check the donors to make sure it's okay to use. So, and then we test, obviously within the guidelines of the UK, we test following the regulations of the HFEA. Okay. That means before and after there's a quarantine period, and we follow that as well.
And you're based outside of the UK, and do you work with all the clinics in the UK?
We work with the majority of the clinics in the UK. If some clinics may have a preference of a bank over another, we experience that. If you have fallen for a donor that you want to use and you can't find a clinic, you just give us a call and we can recommend a clinic in your area that you can use to receive that sample.
Okay, and if a child is born as a result of donor, does the donor ever find out how many children that potentially could be chatting the door in 18 years' time?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I've got any more questions here. Mila, that was really, really informative. If anyone's listening and they need further support, Fertility Network have got lots of different support groups to support you on your journey to parenthood. Please get in touch with us. We'd also like to highlight as well, Fertility Network, I'm not recommending you go to one donor bank over another. There are a few out there. So you need to do all of your own research in that area to find the right donor for you. And once again, thanks, Mila, and please get in touch if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, and obviously they can also reach out to us. We would be happy to answer any questions that come up. Yeah, thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you.
Bye.